Yeah, senior year of high school, I took British literature, because I didn't want to take AP Lit. I was really big on the math and sciences back then, so I put all of my AP eggs in those AP baskets, and I wasn't going to take AP Lit. Anyway, one of the assignments in Brit Lit was this project where we had to pick some theme and analyze a bunch of poems by British poets that fit that theme. And guess who picked space? Yeah, so I stumbled on some of my old files for this project a while ago, and I looked up the poems I wrote about to see if they were at all interesting. And they kind of were, like they were a lot of fun. So yeah, we're gonna do it. Merry Christmas, everybody. Here's Halfway to Pluto by Don Petit, written in 2012. Or Petit, I don't know how to pronounce names. I'm halfway to Pluto and Earth doesn't know the trials of travel in space as we go. With thrust to our backs while we speed on our way, the blue dot of Earth gets fainter each day. When earthly horizons slip from your view, the color of loneliness changes its hue, and a radio call to our mission control takes nearly a day to just say hello. Yet our boss back on Earth, abstract from our flight, has no understanding of our minds in this plight. The sirens of space singing songs for our souls try to tempt us to ruin on the reef of black holes. Over ears with wax patches, we resist sirens' call, thus avoiding the reef and escaping the fall. Our families back home make do while we're gone. With or without us, their life does go on. For the future of Earth and the human race, the final frontier we seek will be space. Our kind thus expands into places unknown. I'm halfway to Pluto, never alone. It's a nice poem, and it was like written in space, so I was pretty excited to include it. Mans wasn't actually on a trip to Pluto. We don't send humans to Pluto. There's nothing on Pluto for humans. But here's what I wrote about it. To my surprise, this poem, the very first poem written in space, was rather depressing. It addresses depression and loneliness inherent with space travel. The very first stanza talks about how the people of Earth do not really know the risk astronauts take when they travel space. From the very opening, the speaker takes on a very bitter tone. The next few stanzas are where he gets around to discussing the isolation regarding space travel. The phrase, when earthly horizons slip from your view, the color of loneliness changes its hue, suggests that loneliness in space differs drastically from the usual loneliness one could experience on Earth. This makes sense, since the nearest human beings for some astronauts could be hundreds of miles away. Communication with people on Earth is also a very difficult thing for astronauts, according to Petit. He says, and a radio call to our mission control takes nearly a day to just say hello, further adding to the distance between astronauts and everyone and everything else they have ever known. He even briefly addresses suicide. Over our ears with wax patches we resist sirens' call, thus avoiding the reef and escaping the fall. One can assume that the reef and the fall refers to death, and the fact that one would need to avoid these things suggests that the speakers is referring to resisting the urge to commit suicide to forego the dread space travel entails. That was a really long sentence. The poem ends with the same phrase with which it begins. I'm halfway to Pluto. From this, the reader can infer that nothing really changed between the beginning of the poem and the end. This suggests that the entire poem was nothing but a progression of thoughts that occurred in fractions of a second, if anything, which is admittedly unsettling. Yeah, I totally misunderstood what a siren was when I wrote this. He's obviously likening ocean-faring voyages where like sailors would make up stories about sirens and mermaids and krakens as to why their ships would sink and they would die. And it was really just that the ocean is a cold and uncaring place and not fit for humans to be on for long periods of time. And I think Petit was trying to make a sort of connection between that and space travel here with this sirens of space or whatever he said. The sirens of space, it's like capitalized too. I also totally misread the whole end of the poem. Like, most of it is the speaker going, yeah, space travel sucks and I'm lonely and everything. But the whole end of the poem is him, basking in the idea that space is like the shared heritage of mankind. And even though he's going through it and, he's depressed because space travel is lonely and sad, he is fine because he carries with him the well wishes of everybody back on Earth. Like, it's a cute poem. Here's an excerpt from The Creation, a philosophical poem in 7 books by Sir Richard Blackmore, written in 1712. And I'm going to say like a lot of words, and it's not going to make a lot of sense because it's like Middle English or whatever the hell. So just keep listening and hopefully you'll pick up on it. We'll see what happens. All right. I'm warning you, I'm just going to start saying words and That's why I wanted to do this video so much. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yet is this mighty system which contains so many worlds, such vast ethereal planes, but one of thousands which compose the whole, perhaps as glorious, and of worlds as full. All these illustrious worlds, and many more which by the tube astronomers explore, and millions which the glass can never descry, lost in the wilds of vast immensity, our suns are centers whose superior sway planets of various magnitudes obey. As this inferior habitable seat by different parts is made one whole complete, so our low world is only one of those which the capacious universe compose. Now to the universal whole advert, the earth regard as of that whole a part, in which wide frame more noble worlds abound. Witness ye glorious orbs which hang around, ye shining planets that in ether stray, and thou bright lord and ruler of the day. Witness ye stars which beautify the skies. How much do your vast globes in height and size, in beauty and magnificence outgo our ball of earth that hangs in clouds below. Between yourselves, too, is distinction found, of different bulk, with different glory crowned. The people which in your bright regions dwell must this world's low inhabitants excel. And since to various planets they agree, they from each other must distinguished be, and own perfections different in degree. We may pronounce each orb sustains a race of living things adapted to the place, with the refulgent parts and most refined only to serve the dark and base design, where all the stars whose beauteous realms of light at distance only hung to shine by night. And with their twinkling beams to please our sight, how many roll in ether which the eye could never, till aided by the glass, descry, and which no commerce with the earth maintain, are all these glorious empires made in vain. Shout out to all the, tag yourself, I'm all these glorious empires made in vain. The speaker spends the majority of this poem discussing the magnificence of space. He uses adjectives like mighty, ethereal, glorious, shining, beauty and magnificence, and bright. It seems as if the entire purpose of this poem was just for a poet to be able to express his adoration for space. In line 11, he refers to the earth as an inferior habitable seat. This is interesting because he calls the earth inferior as if it could not hold a candle to the magnificence of the rest of the universe. At the same time, he notes it as a seat. This usage of seat can mean a place from which someone would watch an event, much like astronomers watch and observe the universe from Earth, a habitable seat. In the following lines, the speaker suggests that the earth, though inferior, is a part of the greater universe, and without it, the universe would be incomplete. Toward the end of the second stanza, he continues to discuss the overall order and totality of all the planets in the solar system. He says, and since to various planets they from each other must distinguish the, and from own perfections different, I messed up the quote. This suggests that though these planets differ immensely, they are all still essential and perfect parts of the universe. He then goes on to the possibilities of extraterrestrial life, and how such life would be able to communicate and interact amongst itself. However, due to the limitations of technology, Earth and its humans would be isolated from these communities. He also talks about the unfortunate fact that beauteous realms of light, distant stars, are shrouded from our vision when it is daytime. Yeah, so I think this was probably the worst essay we're going to talk about, because it does the worst job of explaining what the poem was about. And I didn't write a follow-up essay for this video for me to explain to you what I think this poem is about. I can see now, having 4 more years of being a person under my belt, that this is more than about man just wanted to say something cool about space, or even that this is about the planets in the solar system. Not even that. It really is just about how many possible worlds there are. This is like the 1700s, so we were really coming around to these ideas of our universe being bigger than just our little solar system, than just our little planet and our little sun and our moon, and then the planets that we can see in the sky revolve around us. And it really, Blackmore here is pointing your head out into the sky and saying, look at all of these stars, look at all these beauteous realms of light, and you can't tell me that they're all out there doing nothing. He's saying, we are planets around this star, those are other stars, there are probably planets around them, these suns are centers whose superior sway planets of various magnitudes obey. There's a bunch of different crazy ass planets out there. And finally, an essay upon the infinity of worlds by Henry Moore from 1647. And as the planets in our world, of which the suns the heart and kernel do receive, their nightly light from the suns that do enrich their sable mantle with bright gems and give a goodly splendor, and sad men relieve with their fair twinkling rays, so our world's sun becomes a star elsewhere, and doth derive joint light with others, chereth all that one, in those dim duskish orbs around other suns that run. This is the paragon of each noble fire, of neighbor worlds to be the nightly star, but their main work is vital heat to inspire into the frigid spheres that about them fare, which of themselves quite dead and barren are, but by the wakening warmth of kindly days, the sweet dewy nights in due course raise long hidden shapes of life to their great Maker's praise. These with their suns I several worlds do call, whereof the number I deem infinite, else infinite darkness were in this great hall of tendless universe, for nothing finite could put that immense shadow into flight. But if the infinite suns we shall admit, then infinite worlds follow in reason right. For every sun with planets must be fit, and have some mark for his far shining shafts to hit. Suns are men. And if these globes are regions of life, and several kinds of plants therein do grow, grass, flowers, herbs, trees, which the impartial knife of all-consuming time still down doth mow, and new again doth in succession show, which also's done in flies, birds, men, and beasts. Add sand, pearls, pebbles that the ground do strow, leaves, quills, hairs, thorns, blooms, you may think the rest. Their kinds by mortal pen cannot be well expressed. Yeah, that's the most metal poem. Here's my essay. Upon my first reading of this poem, I was shocked as to how straightforward and direct it was. Then I reread the title and concluded that that was the point. The point of this poem, or essay with varying rhyme schemes, was to propose that if the universe were finite, to deduce that there were an infinite number of planets in the universe would not be far-fetched. And with this endless supply of planets, some of them are bound to spawn vegetation, and subsequently, many of the animals one would find on Earth. He starts the poem by expanding the reader's perception of the universe beyond just our solar system. He accomplishes this by proposing that if our sun is just one of many stars in the universe, then elsewhere in the universe, our sun becomes a star elsewhere. By pulling the reader to some distant point in space, he is preparing to deliver his point about the grandiose nature of the universe. The next stanza focuses on explaining to the reader the integral role that stars play in allowing life to thrive on their surrounding planets. This is where he gets the most poetic. He describes the process of stars heating their planets with mostly positive adjectives, as if to ensure the reader that what is going on is a good thing. He refers to the heat that stars provide as vital. He describes the planets as frigid spheres and being quite dead and barren before they are energized by their star. After the star has warmed the planet, they are to experience warmth of kindly days and sweet dewy nights. This final stanza is dedicated to the discussing of the implications of an infinite number of planets. Among so many planets, according to his reasoning, some are bound to engender life. He also indirectly suggests that this life would somewhat resemble life on Earth. He says, flies, birds, men, and beasts, you may think the rest. This implies that the reader, who he had probably intended to be terrestrial, would be able to infer what other forms of life would sprout on this distant planets just from their knowledge of life on Earth. And typos notwithstanding, this is probably the best essay of today's video, because I did the best job of breaking down the poem and explaining what it was about. Where the other ones I was just sort of typing. I was just sort of trying to make my page limit. But yeah, let me check the rest of the script, see if I have anything else to say. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I thought this would be a fun topic for Christmas, especially considering how grandiose and dramatic these poems were. And I feel like space is also just a very hallowed topic, and it's just interesting to talk about. I think the way these poems framed space, they did it in a way that could inspire you and me to think about it and our place in it. And that's a fun little line of thought for Christmas. So there we go, video justified. We also got to watch me struggle to fill a page with words, just like really grasping for straws, just completely unable to comprehend what the hell it was that I was reading. So that's always fun. And it's also like really easy to make videos out of essays that I've already written. Like, if you'll remember, that's kind of how we got here. And no, I'm not gonna link the video. Don't watch it. It's really bad. So Merry Christmas. And happy holidays and all that. I don't know, it's been one hell of a year, so if you're celebrating a holiday right now for some reason, I hope it brings you some joy. I don't know, I just wish personally I had made more videos this year, but yeah, I also started grad school this year, and so I had a lot of work, and like a lot of like periodic assignments. Like I was a whole TA, so every week I had to make a slideshow and a quiz with all the material of the week. And it was just a lot, just me, my laptop, and 30 students trying to make it happen. Oh, but it happened, like we did the damn thing. Shout out to Section 5. But I think I'm getting acclimated, and even though I haven't been filming and editing videos, I have been writing, so we'll see where all that goes. Look, I'll work on my video making, and in the meantime, I want you to like and subscribe. Yes, we're at that point in the video again. Look, in all actuality, all I want for Christmas is views and subscribers. Like, I don't even want your money. I know I said that in the anniversary video, but I promise it was just a joke. I'm not gonna set up like a Patreon or have ad reads at the end where I go, and this was brought to you by Audible. Like, yeah, thanks Amazon. Yeah, no, none of that. I just want the clout. Like, I promise you, I am just in it for the clout. So like this video and all the other videos and show all your friends. If I'm in your yearbook, point me out to your parents in your yearbook and then show them my videos. I don't know, it sounds like it'd be fun. Like a net positive for everybody, a joy to the world almost. But yeah, I am generally running out of things to say, so I guess we can just call it here. If you've made it this far into the apocalypse, honestly, thanks for watching.
Mifa's grace is ready.